Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and today we are doing a Q&A about guns and YouTube specifically. So I have got a number of fantastic guests with me because, well, we're actually here in Ljubljana, Slovenia, having just finished shooting Link's Brutality. So we have Mike from Bloke on the Range, we have Žiga from Polenar Tactical, who put on Link's Brutality. Fantastic match, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we have PSR from Print, Shoot, Repeat.
He looks like a criminal.
He kind of.
I get that a lot. I don't know why.
Yeah, but the masked element has its pros and its cons, doesn't it?
Indeed, indeed.
All right. Well, we have 3 pages of questions to go through today, and they, of course, came from the fantastic folks on the Forgotten Weapons Patreon. If you enjoy what you see, if you'd like to submit questions for a future Q&A, or if you just want to get a stream of videos 4 times a week in your email without any YouTube ads, check out the Patreon. Also, if you appreciate the content that these folks do, I'll include links to all of their Patreons down in the description text as well. So let's start off with our first question, which comes from a chairman. This seemed an appropriate question to put in at the very beginning, which is, what alcohol is Žiga going to make everyone drink?
This year, none, I guess. Like, I didn't have time to force you to drink alcohol because I was organizing the match and I was super tired, so even me, myself, didn't drink much. Maybe the last day, and that's it.
We kind of got low energy Žiga here after the giant exhale from the end of the match. But what we are drinking is Slovenian beer. So I've got the Laško, the green beer, and these guys all have the red beer.
Union, or Union, as we pronounce it. Funny thing, many years back now, I'm getting old. Many years back, these were the 2 main beers in Slovenia, and there was like a big rivalry. Union was like Ljubljana's beer, the brewery just next to us, a couple of kilometers away, at the city center, and this one was more of another area, and people kind of these were tied to football teams and sport teams and whatever, but like Bloke made a really good comment before we started filming. Now they taste almost the same, and they are just shitty generic beer. It's good to drink, but usually I think most people now drink Czech beer, the imported one.
Understand. So, all right, moving on to proper real questions. Toby asks, what guns do you find the most photogenic or interesting to film? Is it being mechanically interesting or visually interesting, something like long recoil stuff, or just clean, well-shaped to play dress up with accessories? On the flip side, what are the guns you like talking about? Something with history and stories, interesting comments, gimmicks. So what do you find best to film, and what do you find most interesting to talk about?
I'm going to be totally mechanical about this. Filming long rifles tabletop is a pain in the bum. Complete pain in the bum, and often it's only the middle bit that's really got more than a few seconds of interest in it. So I find subgats a good compromise because I got in my hyperfocus move to subgats blocked at semi a while back because one of the improvements for us in Switzerland post 2019 EU firearms directive was that alloys were actually made easier for down conversions from full auto, which opened up having like, ooh, I see full auto subgap, which has a selector. So I'm not my tame gunsmith guy. Could you get that for me and circumcise it, please? And he would go yes, and he would get it in for me, cut its balls off, and then I'd get it like that. And they're quite nice to film, and the trigger mechanisms are generally quite interesting there, because open bolt, full auto, semi-auto mechs are quite different to what we usually have. And that's also something that there's not that much content on our side, other than you having access to these things in museums and your NFA collection.
Although,
like that.
if I tend to ignore anything, it is trigger mechanisms. I just have done less detail on trigger mechanisms than I should have in general. So
I love that. I love that.
That so fits perfectly with your regular day job.
Exactly. It absolutely does.
Žiga?
Just to have a different answer, I'll focus on shorts because we're doing a lot of shorts lately and shorts are just booming. So I would say from logistic part, it has to be short enough so you can fit it into into the screen of a short video, and just anything interesting, visually pleasing. For example, your flux radar in gray color with the strange, very high SIG optic on it. I think that will do super well on short, because then you cannot set up a custom thumbnail yet. So I just get one of the screen grabs of a perfect lighting of that flux radar, and I guarantee you 80% of people will not know what it is, and will click on it and they will be surprised by the video. So for me, I like visually appealing guns, but I'm also very technical about guns, so I kind of, it's a mixed thing, but just for the video purpose, I would go with aesthetics.
It's interesting. I would point out, we'll get to you just a second. You are running this channel as a part of a full-time firearms business, where Mike, for you, the channel is a sideline.
Yep.
So you have less drive to get the clicks and the attention. That's going to sound bad, but for you, it is an important, significant element.
Especially with shorts. With shorts, like there's no, I don't enjoy doing shorts. They are mandatory evil, and if I'm doing shorts, I want to make them in a way that I maximize the retention, the interest, and get as many views as possible. Our normal content, which some of the videos may be a bit boring, but essentially it's what interests me, and I want to invest my time to do a video about it. And that's why our videos are all over the place, and sometimes they are just like super boring topic, and then the other times it's something that is maybe more interesting to a lot of people. So it depends.
Personally, I have a very clear answer. It's 3D printed AKs, because AKs, yeah. So I've got a Plastikov V3 and a Plastikov V4, two completely different designs. The V2 or the V3 is an older design that actually doesn't incorporate a safety, and it's very blocky, and it is held together horizontally with some bolts and nuts, and it just looks very DIY and also very cyberpunk. And you can actually have the option of not mounting a dust cover, which visually looks super cool, super neat. And then the other one, the V4, there's a lot of different elements to the receiver actually that you can print in different colors, which I did. I kind of did like a gray plum.
That's the one that we shot?
Yeah, it's the one we shot in Virginia. So that's going to be my answer. Plastikov 3D printed AKs.
Okay. What sort of footage, what kind of footage do you prefer to do in general? Is it experimental 3D printing stuff? Is it guns with stories? Is it guns based on their mechanics?
A lot of it is, guns based on their mechanics with slow motion footage. I have a Sony ZV-1, which is a very affordable. If you're looking to get a slow motion camera, check out the ZV-1 because it will record 1080 at 960 frames per second. And so I love filming the action of a gun like the Plastikov with no dust cover, to just actually see the round get pulled out and the violent recoil of the recoil spring and the plastic kind of bending a little bit, and it's just super interesting to watch. So just in general, the slow motion action of guns.
Slow motion firearms footage is a really cool combination of aesthetically interesting and mechanically enlightening.
Yes.
You learn so much watching what's actually happening to that gun.
Yeah.
It's amazing that you notice on a slow motion, super slow motion, you notice stuff that you never even thought are happening with your gun.
Yeah, I've actually diagnosed malfunctions and figured out problems relating to my guns based on that slow motion footage and solved problems.
Absolutely. One of the things factories used to do was before they had good slow motion cameras, when you could just get a few pixels and data points on a very high speed quasi photograph rig, they would make cutaways and put white dots on a bolt carrier with a cutaway so that you could see where it was tracking to get malfunction resolving information, one data point at a time.
Really neat.
All right. Actually, this is a similar question along the same sort of lines. Chris says, each of your channels has a different entertainment aspect to it. From your perspective, do you think YouTube is okay with a specific type of firearms content, or if they thought it was possible, would they remove everything? Like, is there good versus bad gun content on YouTube?
I don't think YouTube knows what it wants. It's entirely schizophrenic. It can change from one moment to the next. Does it want copyright infringing slop shorts? Or we seem to be tolerated up to a certain level. I've been working on the basis that monetization might not be a thing for always for us. I don't fight it. Žiga, because it's part of his day job, does all these multiple upload things and these ways to get things monetized. Whereas in my case, if it doesn't monetize, I'm just like, okay, I'm not going to bust a gut for $6 in ultimate revenue for a normal video or whatever. It's like, that's not worth it. As Ian said before, it's not my day job. It's something that pays for itself and enables me to come and do cool shit with my cool friends. But to get back to the plot, YouTube seems to be being driven by an algorithm that is driving itself. It's kind of, it doesn't know what it wants. The AI doesn't even know what it wants. There'll be a change in policy that gets channels banned or demonetized or whatever. And it's a moving target environment where you can't even see the target.
You go first.
I think, well, and when it comes to me, I'm probably what they definitely don't want, first of all. One, I'm making content about 3D printed firearms, which even in the firearms space are relatively controversial. Like, your FUDs are going to not like 3D printed firearms regardless, even pro-gun people sometimes. Then, on top of that, I'm wearing a mask and kind of concealing my identity lightly, and that adds another element of, oh, like, it's a criminal, he's scary, he doesn't want to show his face, he's doing something illegal. So on one end of the spectrum, you've got me, and I think on the other end of the spectrum, Ian, not saying that you're the angel of the GunTube world, but you're pretty close. I mean, Gun Jesus is pretty tame when it comes to, it's a lot of information. It's information not about how to make something, but historical information. I know that everyone struggled with YouTube, but yeah.
I would say CN Arsenal is probably a little farther.
Yes, you're probably right.
I'm a little inside of CN Arsenal.
Yeah. But in the spectrum, as far as the spectrum goes, I would put myself probably in the realm of almost as far as dudes mag dumping outside of their car as they're driving on the highway with the Glock switches. I'm just like a little bit inside of that.
Žiga, thoughts?
I think if YouTube had the power and the will, they would just remove all firearm content altogether. I think they would remove all of the content that can possibly enrage the advertisers. But just logistically, it's not possible without stirring too much shit. I think that's why they don't do it. They are constantly changing the rules. They set up a set of rules and then they go around it and they still ban content or it just.
And they don't
such
tell
a
you, they don't tell you what rule you've infringed. They just say you have infringed the community guidelines. Have a strike.
Yeah, it's a really big pain in the ass, especially if your business relies on this. And not that we get actually any tangible money from YouTube. Just what we don't want is if your YouTube video gets demonetized or, God forbid, restricted, like age restricted, 18 plus, it's dead in the water. Like
no one will
you
see
get
it.
0 views. YouTube doesn't recommend it, and it just hides it, and you would have to specifically search it by the full name to kind of find it.
Yeah.
Maybe on just a little bright side, I have 2 things that I noticed. One is that our videos are getting, all of our videos are by default demonetized, and I have to click on the manual review. But lately, I think the last 8 of them were monetized quite quickly after the review.
Yeah.
And they had nothing that could kind of trip the algorithm, or like that would be kind of on the edgy side. So that was good, because in the past we had a very hit and miss experience with this. I think they had actual manual reviewers from different countries. So depending on the time when you click the manual review, it maybe it depends, like it was an Indian reviewing and someone locally, or maybe some European. I don't know where like the cheapest workforce is, but essentially they were kind of they did that. Now I'm not sure if it's AI, if it's all AI, but a lot of manual reviews are done by the system, because it's just too fast. Like for example, like we click a manual review on a video that's 20 minutes long, and after 3 minutes, it's confirmed that it's demonetized. Like a person cannot watch a 20-minute video in 3 minutes, even if it's like on twice the speed. It's very strange. And then of course, what are those? Like age restrictions now for full auto videos, which are fine in the past. And we're getting some very strange reports on our videos for hateful content.
Hey, too.
Oh, hey, Les. The good part is a very, very small array of sunshine in this debacle is that we actually got one of our shorts. It kind of set up the community guidelines violation, and we put it in a manual review, and it was actually decided that it was not violating any guidelines. It was restored, and I was like, oh, yes!
I think there's a widespread misconception that YouTube just hates guns, when in reality, I don't think, there are certainly some people at YouTube who, for political reasons, don't like firearms culture. But I think much more important at YouTube is they don't like anything that might unnerve advertisers. A while back, I did some Patreon events with a whole bunch of content creators from all sorts of different spaces. And there were a bunch of left-wing types there, and they were complaining about the exact same thing that we complain about. When they're, if they have LGBT stuff that is potentially not necessarily offensive, but like potentially controversial. Yeah. Anything potentially controversial, that's what YouTube doesn't like. And I think what YouTube has this handicap of their entire origin intent of broadcast yourself. And what they really would like to be is a television network where they know and they have control over what's being put on the system, so that they can guarantee that everything meets the most stringent, vanilla, bland advertiser interests. So it's not just guns, but guns are a huge, easy target for this sort of action.
I think there's also, if we take a step back, there's one issue that it's not just YouTube. It's all of the big companies.
Yes.
They are actually, if you look deep enough, you see that it comes to, at least what I found, is it comes to credit card processors, to Visa and MasterCard. These are the biggest two systems. They control everything. And they essentially, they will dictate what you can put on your website or not. That's why you cannot advertise guns, you cannot advertise gun accessories, nothing on YouTube. It's not that people would not be interested to advertise. I think there are a lot of companies, there's a lot of money potentially there, but they're just not allowed to do that. And the same is with Facebook, Instagram, and some other platforms. And if you look deep enough, you will see that it's Visa and MasterCard. They have certain rules, and they set up those rules. And if you do not abide by them, even if you're a super big company, if they turn off your credit card payments or just the system to accept payments, it's over for you.
Yeah.
I think something like that happened with Pornhub, where there was like a big debacle of, I don't know, I didn't went into too much detail, but essentially people complained that there was some content on Pornhub that was not okay. And it came to a point where Pornhub didn't want to do anything, but people complained to Visa or MasterCard, and when they turned off the payments, I think in a couple of days everything was like wiped clean, and they kind of went into into negotiations with the companies and then decided like, okay, these are the rules and we'll work by what you require. So if you would want to make a separate platform, because this is the comments that we get a lot, like, oh yeah, make your own platform, go to, what is it, the one, Rumble?
What's the
whatever.
latest one?
No.
In the last 10 years, how many make your own platforms have we been on between?
There's
all of them.
Yeah.
All of them. Interjecting, go check out weaponsinwar.tv, where 2 of the 4 of us are.
Oh, we're live?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. What are the conditions to join?
It's
I know-
historical educational firearms.
Okay, I know a very big channel that does firearms and stuff, and yeah, they have some history and maybe some educational stuff,
Well, have their people talk to my people.
Okay.
We'll talk. All right. ERB2 says, who were the early YouTube firearms reviewers that inspired you to become one yourself?
Damn. Well, I first started watching GunTube probably in like right around the FPS Russia days, like when he was, that was like my peripheral, not having any guns, watching GunTube. That was who I first watched. Kyle, FPS Russia, just because I thought it was insane. I think we all thought it was insane and interesting. I liked his comedic flair, and the Russian accent was not so great, but it was enough for me to watch. So I'm gonna say FPS Russia was the first one, and then once I started getting into like the technical aspect of firearms, actually your channel was quite a bit of an inspiration.
Well, excellent. Mike?
Your
Me?
projects,
Me? Oh.
more or less, and also possibly surprisingly early demo ranch when he was doing a lot of experimentation and he was coming into it.
ammo in microwave.
Yeah, and some of it was very naive in the way he was going about some of the more sciencey things, and it was kind of that. An absolute classic one that's great for FUDs on Twitter or X or whatever we're calling it these days. Is his shooting 50 BMG through a house of cards without disturbing the house of cards at all, to prove that the shockwave from a 50
I
BMG
didn't
will
see that
not
one.
rip your insides out if it goes past you.
I didn't see that one.
That sort of thing was absolutely spot on, and Matt was a very, very genuine presenter and came across very, very well.
Yeah. I remember those videos. I watched those. Those were his later content was very entertaining, and I think it was made for like younger people and people that are not that much into guns. But his earlier content was exactly what I was interested in. Like, what happens if you put a box of loaded 12 gauge shells into a microwave and that kind of things.
Yeah. What happens if you shoot a cartridge with another cartridge?
And he was loading like his own loads. Like, people don't know, but all of those videos had to be deleted from YouTube because I think he got a strike, or he was like in limbo and he had to remove that content because of deemed dangerous.
Some of his stuff really was dangerous, but I guess that's how you learn. If it doesn't kill you, you learn something.
I would also, I don't know, I remember, shit, I'm old. Maybe Macpool.
Oh, wait till you get to my answer to this one.
I remember Macpool, Travis Haley, and Chris Costa. Not even YouTube. It was just like it was DVD.
Yeah.
And then what was it?
Magpul Dynamics.
Panteo Production.
Panteo Productions. Yeah.
And, what's that Russian guy? Sony Pozikas. He had videos and like I was watching his AK stuff. I was like, is this serious? Like, what's happening? Like,
why is he spinning around?
that's the good one.
That should be a lesson to everyone to never go on a Discovery Channel show.
Team for Military Arms Channel, he had good videos.
Matt.
He still has good videos, but I don't know. They're made in a way and with guns that I have no interest in.
Yeah.
Can I ask something in return? Are there some channels that you are actively watching, or are there some videos that you're actually watching on YouTube, or just like posting?
As far as gun YouTubers go, I mean, outside of the ones outside of Ian, probably I have a sort of cathartic addiction to the gun tube drama, and so I do tune into the. I know. I do tune into the focus trip live streams occasionally, as schizo as they might be. But as far as just like long-term content, I like Brass Facts content, Hops content, and James Reese TSB TV. So yeah.
Yeah, I watch all three of those as well. I recently got hooked on Jason Clower, Type 56, the story of China's army, which is, it's less a channel than like I don't know how long it'll go. Maybe he'll decide to keep doing it after he finishes this semester. But he's a university professor in East Asian studies who, I think because he couldn't get it through his university, decided to do a university lecture course on why did China adopt the SKS and why did they keep it in the face of theoretically so many other better weapons. And he's doing this as 30 to 60 minute lectures every week or two on YouTube, and he has an incredible background in Chinese military history, fluent speaker, he's lived there for a while. And it's one of those topics that there's just no other information published about. So I'm having a great time watching those right now. I'm going to do some collaboration with him too coming up.
Sick.
And I'm not consistently watching anyone or anything at the moment. It's just when stuff comes to my attention. Real life has taken that from me. I used to watch a lot of stuff with various hyperfixations at various times, but the last couple of years I've really not watched anyone consistently. So I'm terribly sorry to everybody that I'm not watching. Just everybody.
I found a Canadian YouTuber, I think. He made an amazing video, I think it was like 1 hour long, about building the ultimate bullpup rifle with 3D plans and like explanations for everything, and how like it went down to how he would design the trigger, why he would design the trigger. Like it was amazing, but it was deleted by YouTube and he got a channel strike for it.
No.
But it was like 1 hour. I think you guys would love it. It's super technical, but it's also entertaining, and it's made in a way that's like, I don't know. That was really good. Otherwise, from time to time, I watch some of Micah's videos. Some of them are super entertaining.
Yeah.
Others are boring. Grand Thumb, I just feel like he's a great guy. I love watching some of his content, but it's like it's not made for me.
Yeah.
It's made for people that probably know nothing about guns.
Yeah.
What else? Yeah, Hop definitely. Hop is specifically autistic about stuff and how he presents it, and he reviews stuff in a way that I would never think about it, and it's like that's a joy to watch and listen, and I'm actually learning stuff.
And there's nothing better than him at SHOT Show. I love those. I should, to answer the original question here myself, who were the early YouTubers that inspired me? If I'm going to be completely honest, when I started, I was running an HTML-based website, and I wanted to start putting video content on because it was easier to explain weird actions with video than with trying to type out articles and photos. And at the time, I was paying for all my own bandwidth, and I couldn't afford to host video. And I started using YouTube because they were suckers, and it turned out you could host your video for free on YouTube and then just embed the link in your website, and then everyone could see the video, and you didn't have to pay for any bandwidth. And I don't know how long they'll be dumb enough to let that deal go, but I'm going to jump in on it. And yeah, that's what got me started on YouTube.
I think it was the same with me when I actually started. I was still a teenager, and I started with some airsoft videos, and essentially that was the thing. Like, I can host a video on this website for free, and just send the link, and people can see it, and that like it evolved from airsoft to real guns, and then.
Joke's on us. They're making money off us now.
Guido says, question rather suited for Ian and Bloke. You got well known on the internet for running, largely for running obsolete guns in matches that others attend with modern kit. Lately, those hard-to-run but nice old irons have been kind of seldom, it seems. Any plan to go back to the roots? Oh, hi, Jordan.
Jordan.
So, in terms of running like a bolt action,
Just harder guns.
well,
Or is it just that
L85.
all of our eyesight is fading and we have to use red dots?
been running L85s if you want hard guns.
That is definitely a hard gun.
What else have I done recently? I've done more modern bolt action. It's kind of it's the way that it's the way the TISM takes you, and at the moment it's taken me along this particular path, and I tend to hyperfixate on something until I've expended it all. So in end of July,
Something in my eye.
probably from shooting my KH9 modern Ziga,
Yeah.
getting full of gas from that. I got to ring out the L85 with the mid '90s LARP, which is like those memes of 50-year-old rifle in my head versus 50-year-old rifle in reality. We're talking about a rifle here that is almost as old as we are and is older than these two are.
Yes.
So, whereas like when I started with guns as a teenager, a 50-year-old rifle was late 40s. This was like the number 4 was a 50-year-old rifle. FN49 was coming up to a 50-year-old rifle, and now I'm 20 odd years older.
What he means to say is the past is now, young man. Something like that.
Something like that. It's like this stuff is getting to be kind of vintage in a way.
The thing for me is I'm doing, like, relatively speaking, I'm doing more really big matches, full-on brutality matches, and fewer regular small-scale monthly two-gun matches. And the really cool old stuff, the bolt rifles or FN49s and guns of that vintage, are just not well suited. Like, you're not going to do well because they're hard, they're a lot of recoil, the sights aren't nearly as good, not as much ammunition capacity, they take longer to load, longer to cycle for bolt action rifles, and I don't want to, I just hate to take the opportunity to come across the world to Slovenia, shoot a 10-stage, 2-day, amazing match with a Mauser. And it's not that I'm worried about losing, it's just not nearly as fun when you can't really enjoy the full stage because it's not designed around an old gun.
So that's my point, practicality. Like, it is fun for one stage to test it out, but then quickly it becomes a chore, and it's like you're not enjoying it, and you're timing out. So yeah, I perfectly understand.
Yeah. It's like I have two matches a year of this kind that I can film at, because I can't film at matches and things that I do in Switzerland. I have to get the most out of it. I would like, links would have been fine except for the fact that proper full-size cartridges was a no-no. 7.62 by 39, 5.56 upper level, so that excludes that, which means we're going to be talking like SKS. And to be honest, I'd rather shoot a number 4 than an SKS.
So yeah, it's we know you'd like to see it.
Yeah.
We know you'd enjoy watching it. It's just
I'm trying to get these guys to shoot a Brutality with a revolver.
I did shoot a Brutality with a revolver.
It was not fun?
No, it was not
No.
fun at all. No. I mean, it was fun because the other guns involved were great, but the revolver was crashing.
Like my old gun for the LARP is a Mark 1 Browning High Power, which is also, that's a 70-odd year old firearm.
That's
Almost 100. What was it? 1935.
GP35.
Yeah.
But
and then the Mark 1, I can't remember when the Mark 1
what we
came out.
could do for next year, we can all go irons. Because there were only like 5 or 6 people.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what?
what?
I was telling you guys this. I was planning to go irons next year as a ringer so that I could get one of those colored top 3 patches. And it's not going to work if everyone else has the same idea.
And I'll do a revolver also, so
Okay, well then
I'll give
I'll at
you
least
some
beat you.
chance. Yeah,
I'll totally bring my M16A1. And
It would be
that's a good rifle
Fun,
for this.
yeah.
The only disadvantage is the length.
Yeah.
I think did you try? I mean, like the car park gunfight. I think some people with very long barrels had a disadvantage. Just moving
yes,
inside.
definitely. It was definitely clunkier. Or it would have been. I mean, I don't know. I had a 5-inch barrel.
Oh yeah, no problem.
I collapsed the stock.
All right. Runebot, we're going to totally change the subject here. Runebot says, with all the military buildup in Europe particularly, do you think a loosening of laws on use and ownership would make a society more resilient to a military threat? This is more a question for the two of you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It just.
This is a topic that we should do because it's like an hour in and of itself. Because if we go back to the experiences of the Boer War and the start of what
The Boer War. Jesus, this is going to be a long.
No. It's relevant. I mean, it's relevant because the US has just adopted as the M7, like the P13, 120 years later.
Yes, that's the perfect
100 years
analogy.
later. But they realised that there was no skill set in basic marksmanship, and what we go on about, all of us go on about here a lot with training, is that the best thing most people can do for training is just fundamentals, just learn to shoot better, as in the four fundamentals. So
there's no magic technique.
No.
Like if people that are really good are just people that are good at fundamentals and they do them quickly.
Yes.
That's the thing.
Yeah. What's the one secret tip? Do fundamentals well and fast.
Slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Don't quote Calvin. He's not here.
Yeah, so they set up the Society of Working Men's Rifle Clubs, I think it was called. I'm working from old memories here. Like as a social club thing, so that there will be a pool of people who knew how to shoot a rifle, full stop. That then, in the case of mobilization, would be part of the army.
And I think that's the big misunderstanding among a lot of people who aren't in the firearms community. They look at it and assume, oh, you want to have civilian firearms ownership so that when the Russians invade, Cletus can grab his Remington 700 hunting rifle and go fight the Russians. When it's not that, it's Cletus will know how to use whatever the standard issue rifle is, and when he gets mobilized into the giant reserve, he's going to be an effective combatant.
And if Cletus is really good at it and is really good at recommunicating it, Cletus becomes an instructor.
Yeah.
I'll try to be very fast with this, but essentially Europe thought that there will be no next war. They were demilitarizing, we changed from conscript to professional military, reduced the military, all of the countries reduced funding for NATO, funding for our militaries, and when the war started, they were all caught with their pants down. And what happened, the first thing in Ukraine, if you remember, they were giving away free guns to anyone that wanted them.
It was a militia, like the Hostomel attack was stopped by like firemen and territorials and militia.
Yep.
It's not like your special forces don't fight their special forces.
And you see,
their special forces fight your militia and territorials.
That's the thing with Slovenian independence. It was almost the same. Like they were stealing guns from the armories to arm people, and they were the resistance. Like it was not an organized military, and we just forgot all of that. There were, I don't know, I'm getting old, but I think like 10 years ago there were serious talks about dissolving the Slovenian military. That we have no use.
Approach.
We have no use for it. Just dissolve it, and I don't know, repurpose soldiers into firemen and social workers and whatever. It's like, yeah, sure. And then I don't know, Croatia. Well, Croatia would probably not attack us, right, Croatia? But essentially, we would just be subject to someone else that has force and has military, and that's what the whole history teaches us.
And the other problem is once you've lost the skill set, it's very difficult to get it back.
Yeah.
There was a thing with the Swiss was do they need an air force? Do they need tanks? But it's like this is stuff that's been built up for aviation from about 1910, tanks a bit later. But it's like once you've got rid of that continuity, you've then got to basically go cap in hand to someone else when you need it back to be like, can we have a plug and play tank force, please, America? And America can turn around and say, no, and then you're a bit stuffed, and you're trying to let's go hire some Blackwater guys who like just trying to reconstruct it. So you need to retain even a rump force that can then be expanded in case of need. And I think that the latest nastiness has indeed shown that we made the same mistake as the 1920s, thinking, "Oh, peace in our time," and we screwed it up.
Anything you want to add? We're kind of leaving you out of this.
I mean, I think it's speaking from an American perspective. I think there's so many guns in the U.S. that we just think, "Oh yeah, we'll be fine." But in reality, the amount of people that actually know how to shoot their own gun, and we had this conversation the other day, is that the reality is that that's very low for the amount of guns that there are in the country, for the amount of people that own firearms. You know, your average firearm owner maybe gets to the range twice a year, if that, and does not shoot their guns. So I think training is the most important part. Whether it's you're using your buddy's rifle when he goes to the range, you don't even own a rifle, you're going to be better at, resisting and opposing, invading force than the person that owns 12 rifles and shoots 100 rounds a year, So I think that's a huge important part is training.
All right. Richard says, both the AR and AK families of rifles have had decades to arrive at the reliable weapons that they are today, but there have been others which legitimately could have been contenders. With all the accumulated experience in the room, which firearms platforms do you think got dropped prematurely, and why should they get a second chance?
Bullpups.
Oh, you're on a bullpup hyperfixation now.
No, I just think like if we are thinking in a way of U.S. military where they want very fast velocity and penetration at certain distance for body armor, why do it with a short barrel and a big rifle? They could do it with a very short rifle with a long barrel. And I think
the other two entrants in the NGSW were both bullpups.
I know, but there was like some.
They were both stupid.
Oh, okay.
They had issues.
Yeah. And why not? Why have a 20-inch barrel when you can have a short barrel and a can that makes it up to the same distance, so that you can reduce the noise, the number of decibels that the short barrel is causing, to the same as if it was a 20-inch barrel.
We got this idea from the Hungarians in the AMD 65, so I'm going to blame it on them.
My point is, I think bullpups are misunderstood, and they were never done in a correct way. Well, they did. Like AUG was really good for the time, but they just never developed it further. And what makes an AR platform such a good, like the best weapon platform, is just evolution.
Yeah.
Evolution. It's not just militaries that evolve it. It's civilian market and other companies, and like it's already so perfected, but they're still coming up with improvements and simplifications, or it just that makes it such a good weapon platform. And then you look at some others, like the F2000, what Slovenian military used to today. It could have been a good rifle, but they would have to change a lot of things. Not like the operating system, but small things. And if they would evolve it, it could come to a really, really good platform. But right now, it's just obsolete and it's shit. And
It would evolve into a VHS.
For example, I would say that the VHS is not the best bullpup, but it's really good. And
yeah, it is.
If they would iterate it forward, so people will have to buy it, people will have to modify it. Some companies would have to come up with aftermarket solutions, and if there would be enough interest, they would just improve it, and at the end we would come to something that could rival the AR or the AK. And the AK, well, the AK is special. Yeah, it's more about the vibe, not about the performance.
That's a little unfair. Today, it is demonstrably not as good as the M16 platform, but you go back 20, 30, 40 years, and it was a very viable contender.
Yeah, it still is. It still is. I can shoot. I love AKs, but I love the feel of it. I love how it looks, how it shoots. But I do realize that just if you go statistics and side by side, it's really hard to kind of be a serious contender.
I think in a lot of ways the M16 got lucky. Like if you think about it in terms of people, it was the gun design that was blessed with good accidental genetics that make it far more naturally modifiable or modular than an AK.
Yeah, but if you take the early ones, they were very similar to an AK. Like mounting an optic on it was not simple.
True.
Changing anything on it, adjustable buttstock. Like, those were things that were not, people don't remember that they were not as intuitive and like just natural to the platform as they are now.
Just the upper-lower split gives the M16 a huge advantage over the AK in terms of eventual modifications and modularity. Imagine if you could take an AK lower and drop different barrels on it, it would help speed up development.
But AK could come to that point, but they never developed it in that way.
SIG 550.
Yep. But do you know the project like the AKV 521? I think like some private Russian designer designed it, and essentially looks similar to an AK-12, but it's much better, and it has an upper where the barrel is and the lower, and it's just better trigger pack, normal safety. The upper is connected like with a proper rail for mounting optics.
Yeah.
It's just like that's where the AK should go, not into the AK-12, the one that was accepted. Like the first prototypes were much better, a very advanced weapon system. And then the Russian army comes in and it's like, oh, this is too expensive. And they're just like, jump to what
Eastern
it is now.
Eastern L85.
I would say, not that I would go back in time, but looking forward in time and given the nature of the content on my channel, I will say that 3D printing has come a long, long way in a short amount of time. Now, are we going to be 3D printing PLA rifles for the military? No. But with the technology that's involved in sintering metal 3D printing, I think that has come crazy far in 10 years, and I just look forward to in 10 more years, maybe we'll be able to print some extremely lightweight, like very high, power rifles that are able to do the things that we're talking about in a more effective way. So, looking forward to that.
Can I come at this from the other end?
Sure.
And say that there's probably people in the comments angrily typing, EM2, what about the EM2? And we suffer a lot from magic rare prototype syndrome.
Yes.
Where on the basis of a few hand-built prototypes, there's something that was going to be the next big thing, and then was shelved for whatever reason and never picked up again. Usually it wasn't picked up again by anyone for a very good reason. And having discussed quite a lot with Jonathan Ferguson on the EM2, like there were problems with the 100-odd hand-built prototypes, including getting gassed by them. Absolutely, like there are gas pathways through that thing. There were some very strange design choices in the gas system. They just put more flanges on to try and get it to go out the side. It's like they weren't actually good designs.
Exactly.
Even in 280, they weren't good designs. They are surprisingly large for a bullpup. They were clunky. They look like a pressed steel design, but they're machined from solid. And I think that if that had been adopted, rushed, the chances are it would have been worse than the M14 disaster and the L85A1 early years disaster combined.
Yeah, absolutely. I often will get asked, like, what forgotten weapon should have been adopted? And the answer is virtually none of them. Every once in a while I think of one or two where there was really a circumstance of economics or global politics that killed something that did have potential, but the 99% of the time.
There's a reason why almost everything is some form of derivative of an AK, an AR-15 with DI or with a gas piston, or an AR-18.
Yeah.
Almost everything is one of these three systems, and that one's a derivative of that one anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would mention here PCCs, which is not one platform, but if you remember when this craze started, you had just direct blowback. ARs, PCC ARs were all direct blowback. Now, I think a lot of companies, essentially what's common is 9mm cartridge, so 9x19, and then they're just every manufacturer wants to make some kind of improvement to it because they're competing against each other. Who can create a less recoiling rifle, a better shooting rifle, and that's driving the progress. So what we have now on the market is much better than we had 5 years ago because everything, almost everything, except like for MP5, was just direct blowback. Now I think it's an interesting field.
Yeah.
And that's the civilian market driving it,
Yes,
not
of
the
course.
military.
And quickly.
Yeah.
It's iterating fast. All right. Tim would like to ask, with the growing hate on YouTube for firearms channels, where do you get the most up-to-date information on the YouTube terms and conditions? How do you find professional or legal advice on what all that legalese means?
No, you don't.
Yeah, that's pretty much the
No.
answer.
Yeah.
It's trial and error.
Read the YouTube terms and conditions. Okay, I'm no more enlightened. Ask their bots. No, they read the YouTube terms. It's a self-licking lollipop. You don't know. It's a moving target environment with an invisible target.
I will say there have been a couple resources recently that I've gotten in touch with through Gun Owners of America and a couple other orgs, just knowing people in the business, meeting people at SHOT Show. I met one of the YouTube reps, and he actually is located quite close to me, and so I was able to get his number, and I was like, oh my god, I got his number.
The Holy Grail.
Yeah,
Someone I can actually talk to.
a
I
YouTube.
can match with him.
Yeah. So that has been an improvement, but not every, like 99% of YouTubers don't have access to that. So that has to change somehow. And I would say if we could have someone that we could talk to, a real person, to say, hey, could you check this out and just like give me an idea or like a YouTube helpline or something, that would be hugely beneficial for just everyone, you know?
We used to. Well, you used to. I was never big enough back in the day when there were still real person for the big.
I had a partner manager
Yeah.
for a time, and it was always weirdly it was a temporary thing. It was like for 6 months you get a partner manager, and the problem was that person was utterly useless because they would just repeat what the bots would say today.
Yeah.
Although it was you and someone else when in 2018 a bot killed my channel in like 30 seconds, gave me like 3 consecutive strikes and banned the channel for old content. It was via you and a couple of others we got into real people.
Yeah.
That's true.
And that got it put back up.
But in terms of day-to-day operations, like if I
forgot it.
say, what is thermal ammunition? My partner manager was like, well, it's thermal ammunition, I guess.
The one that's forbidden. The one that's forbidden.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, it's definitely
It's
the
like the
illegal
shoulder thing that goes up.
Yeah. They didn't know anything, and if I had an argument with a rule, they had no power to do anything. It was just an echo chamber. Like, it was just a way for YouTube to have someone that you could vent at and maybe feel good about, and it was...
I think there are 2 or 3 unicorns, like actual YouTube reps that work with big firearm channels that can help. I know that Matt from Demolition Ranch had one.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know if that's the same guy, but Brandon Herrera has direct contact with someone. For us, it's just YouTube customer service support, and there's a lot of typing back and forth. There is a possibility, it's very hard to get, but there is a possibility to actually talk with a real person. We managed to do that when our whole channel was demonetized, and we didn't know why. It didn't list a reason, and we somehow managed, after 2 weeks of writing, we managed to get a phone number where someone, like, we call and something, and then we gave the phone number, and we got a date, and someone actually called us back, and we had 2-hour talk with the guy, and he arranged an actual manual review by real persons. And when they reviewed it, they saw that we're not selling guns, we're not, advertising directly ammunition or guns on our channel, we're not linking directly to, so we got it restored, but that was...
It's like a freaking underground gambling ring, where it's not like a government agency where there's a list of here's customer service and here's who you talk to and there's this department, that part. No, it's like, I heard Brandon knows a guy.
Yeah.
Let me text Brandon. I didn't get Brandon, but I got Brandon's, like, the dude that works with Brandon, and he says I should call Bob. And Bob here's Bob's Gmail address, and I'm like, Bob, okay. And this is like, I want to place an illegal bet on some football game. Who do I talk to?
Unfortunate.
And then you get through, and maybe Bob's too busy for you today, or maybe Bob actually comes through and does something. It's a ridiculous system.
Yeah.
Pain.
Spain.
Spain.
Let's see. Nick, what was your first transferable machine gun? So that would apply to the two of us. What was your first machine gun? Was it awesome? Would you do it again the same way? Do you still have it? If you don't have a machine gun yet, what would you like to get first and why?
MP5. Full auto MP5s are the best firearm.
It is or was? You want
no,
it or it was your first machine gun?
Today we
Technically-
figured one out.
Technically, we can own full auto guns as collectors, but then you're not allowed to shoot with it. I shot with a lot of full auto guns, and what I would love to own and shoot, otherwise there's no point in owning, is a full auto MP5. I would prefer it over the MP7. MP7 it just has this status of wow when it's super expensive and hard to get, but just in shootability, I think MP5 is the most fun.
Mine was a Bren, and it was a private sale, and this was back under the old law, and you went and got the permit for that gun. In Switzerland, we'd buy a lot sight unseen on the basis of adverts. I went there. It has a slightly warped butt group. The rails are a bit warped. It still runs fine. You wouldn't notice. Expensive to run, and actually, and this is possibly a luxury decadent thing, is that full auto, after a certain point, it stops being exciting.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, we're only allowed to shoot them so much.
Giga has not shot enough
Ziga
full
has
auto.
not enough.
I shot a lot, but it's still like if someone says, "Oh, this is full auto, you want to shoot?" Yes.
Oh yeah, something new.
I
yeah.
never said no.
Oh yeah, if someone's offering me, particularly if it's their ammunition,
Oh yeah.
and anything new, I will always take it up on. But the way it works in Switzerland is you can only shoot them at events for which the permit has been issued, and now every individual participant has to have a permit. Thank you, Zurich, for spoiling that for everybody. So you apply for your permit, and you get a number of dates and times of particular things.
As a brand, you're thinking about the machine gun?
Yeah.
World War II brand.
Yeah. I had forgotten that there even was another gun called a Bren. No, and then that goes like
Yes.
28 rounds is 28
Yes.
Swiss francs if you're lucky.
But it's also it's not fun to shoot, right?
Oh, it is.
Oh,
no,
yes,
it is.
It
A Bren,
is.
right. Okay, there are few firearms where the hype is real, and the
Yes.
Bren is one of them. The Bren
Yes.
literally does everything
Yes.
the memes have it as something, except there's no such thing as too accurate. It literally,
Yes.
it just goes chug 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 chug.
It's insane. I actually am fresh off my first Bren machine gun experience. Like I shot one just a couple weeks ago, and oh my god, I was converted.
They
It's
are
amazing. You got to.
They are absolutely amazing because the whole barrel and body group recoils on the butt group it moves
Yes.
against a spring, so it just sits there.
Yeah.
You have to hang on to it, and it just sits there, and it goes brrrm,
It's awesome.
and
You
it's
just reminded me about the Ultimax 100.
Oh,
yeah.
That's also
that is an absolute meme.
Yeah.
It
It's
literally.
like
that
it's
does
a
not-
bullet hose.
I know.
Oh,
I've got some footage. We did a range day. It cost us like 1,000 francs in range hire and permits and ammo and stuff. And I haven't been able to use it because I haven't had the time and the whole uncertainty with full auto and YouTube came up. So I got a ton of that footage. But the Ultimax was incredible. There's a bunch of them on the Swiss market, and yeah, I mean it's as light as a rifle.
There's a bunch of them on
Yeah,
the Swiss
bunch of
market.
them.
Damn it.
It's as light as it is as light as a rifle. There's some footage of me like
Yeah,
mag dumping a whole thing from the
We-
shoulder like that, just going.
We have footage of Manza dumping the whole drum. Like, it's not even moving. But now it's restricted on YouTube. So
Yeah,
First machine gun?
Well, The ATF would like to say that I have a few machine guns, but they're actually not legally defined machine guns. I mean,
If it's transferable, it has to be a registered thing, and if
Yeah.
it's not legally a machine gun, it's not registered. So,
yeah. Well, I don't have any transferable machine guns yet. Yet being the clear word, but if I had to pick a transferable machine gun, call me. I don't know. I love shooting full auto AKs. I just think they're a very visceral experience, and they're cool and fun to shoot. And I guess up until recently, 7.62 by 39 was relatively affordable.
Thanks, Putin.
Yeah, thanks, Vladimir. But I would say just an AKM if it was relatively affordable, but a PKM if I could.
Oh,
I would.
PKM.
Have you
Like
shot the
real.
AKSU?
Yes, that thing is awesome. The AKSU, a short-barreled AK would probably be my choice. Yeah.
So my first transferable machine gun was a Vickers gun in 303.
Oh,
nice.
Because, oh man, they're cool. They run forever, which they really pretty much do. Easy to change calibers in. I actually converted mine to 54 rimmed. Like on paper, it has a whole ton of things going for it, and most of them are real. I no longer own it. I ended up selling it a number of years ago because it actually wasn't all that fun because there was absolutely nothing dynamic you could do with it. The thing on its mount weighs in excess of 100 pounds. You have to fill it up with water, and then when you're taking it to the range is a whole checklist of procedures. It's heavy, it's big, water, belt up the ammo. Once you're done, of course, you're shooting corrosive ammo because that's the only affordable stuff to shoot. And I had a ton of it at the time, but it means you have to give it a really good thorough cleaning. You have to make sure you drain the water, dry out the water tank so that nothing inside is rusting, the water jacket. And it sits there. Like, it doesn't move. And the trigger is just a button that turns money into noise.
Yep.
You can swing it back and forth, but you can't take it to matches. You can't move around with it. There's nothing dynamic to do with it. And so I realized, like, I have a lot of money invested in this thing that I took it out to the range twice, maybe 3 times, and then it just wasn't fun. And so I sold it, put the money into other stuff. Like a Shosha, which is awesome. But I'll tell you what, a Shosha, you can run around. It's almost more fun because it's a terrible gun.
Yeah.
We will get over to your Shosha challenge.
I hope you all do.
That would be awesome.
You just reminded me. Your ledge
Yes.
upper,
Yeah, that's
and that setup is really surprisingly nice to shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's pretty affordable when it comes to the transferables on the U.S. market. That's the one you go with is a Mac 11 because that's the most affordable.
My recommendation, if you're doing that, is get an M11A1, the 380 machine pistol, because the receiver is substantially shorter than the 9mm ones. And you don't care about the receiver on the Lage conversion. You're just interested in Richard Lage's stuff. And the idea of having 2 or 3 inches less receiver sticking off the end is a bonus.
So
and
that
definitely don't get the 45.
So that will work. The 380 receiver will work with a Lage upper of any kind, really.
So Lage essentially each one of Lage's designs, he makes 3 versions:
Got
an
it.
M10, an M11, and an M11A1 or M11-9.
And the 380, if you have the upper for it, it rips.
Honestly, yeah, the 380 as a machine pistol in its original form is a doozy of a.
Yeah.
A doozy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Finished.
Yeah.
All right. Leisure Noir has 3D printed technology, programming, and manufacturing reached a level high enough to create small arms, rifle, GPMGs, launchers like grenade launchers, AT guns, AT missiles, manpads, and drones as a substitute standard for lesser armies, or have we plateaued with what we're seeing in Burma and Ukraine?
Very great question. Personally, based on my experience, I'm not an engineer or anything, but I would say just from a consumer level, from what I've seen in the past 10 years, how far it's come, I think there's only, there's not a ceiling to it in my opinion, because it's just a matter of these parts becoming less expensive, these, devices, these sintering machines, because we're not going to be printing plastic if we're talking about small arms and like armies and stuff. if we can get these machines to be a little bit cheaper, which if you look at 3D printing, 3D printers in the last 10 years have gone down significantly, the consumer end. Now it's like, a few years ago, maybe the setup for a sintering, metal sintering printer and, the oven that you have to bake the material in and all that was close to $1 million, and it's gone down. So, as the more it becomes popular, now we're seeing every single, suppressor company debuting their new 3D printed silencer. So those are small tubes. We just need to make big tubes for recoilless rifles and launchers and stuff. And I think that we're on the way of doing that. Will it replace CNC machining anytime soon? Probably not in the next 10 years, but I would say, as we go, 10, 20 years in the future, the bigger the print surface bed, the bigger object you can make. And if you can make, let's say, in 3D printing we have infill, so like the amount of actual plastic that you're filling the piece of material, the object with. If it's going to be 100% infill, it's basically like injection molded in terms of the thickness and the density, right? But let's say we figure out a way to make titanium receivers that don't have to be 100% infill, that are going to be just as strong, but that could be lighter and use less material. That is an option. I think maybe in the future that could be an option to make.
One of the other things we're already starting to see is multiple materials in the same printed product.
Yeah.
B&T's doing that with Inconel and titanium in a can. I think we're going to be able to see differential heat treating, perhaps, differential hardness and durability and strength over different elements of a printed object. And that's something that's critical for complex machines.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I can't predict where it's going to end up, but I think there's massive coming potential for 3D printing. And yeah, it's virtually all the plastic we've largely gotten.
Yeah.
Like there's lots of places for plastic 3D printing in modern manufactured goods. Like you're not going to make a titanium rifle with a titanium pistol grip. You're going to have plastic for a pistol grip.
Yeah.
And that stuff can be printed with what we have today pretty well.
Yeah.
But the coming tech in metal printing, it's very exciting.
And evolving quickly,
Yeah. All right, and they're into old fuddy guns instead. So moving on.
For the sake of time, I will not answer this question.
Joe says, can you all discuss some of the nuances about firearms law in the U.S. compared to some European countries? I'm not expecting a deep dive into the law, just some of the things that make gun ownership easier, handier, or generally just interesting in different countries. I will prompt you, Mike, with the very obnoxious reality that you could buy from me and import any firearm that I own into Switzerland.
Yes.
I can't buy half this crap you've got and import it into the U.S., and I find that very irritating.
Yes. See, for me, I believe there's another question on the list, which we'll just answer it, which was, is there anything I want out of the US? We could combine these two.
Yes, okay, so Evan says, if you are able as a European to buy one American-made gun not available in your country, what would it be? And vice versa for the Americans. What would you buy that you can get in Europe but you can't get in the US?
So, because we can combine these two topics here, which is that for me, living in Switzerland, I can get anything out the US. It is a question of ploughing money, and Leslie Winner, who is just off camera here, of Polaris Worldwide Logistics, throwing those two things at the problem, and then it arrives in Switzerland. However, you have the problem of Title II.
Well, we have assault weapons import restrictions. We have curio and relic military firearms import restrictions. We have Saturday night special restrictions on importation of small handguns. We have restriction on importation of anything NFA. So a lot of stuff that we're seeing liberalization of today, like suppressors, in order to import a suppressor, and in fact, I have a French Trials pistol that came with a suppressor. And I have the gun, I got that imported, but I could not get the suppressor because I would have to get a demo letter from a police agency that wanted to buy them in order to be able to import the suppressor that we're on the cusp of deregulating.
Maybe you should contact Leverkers for that.
Now, if they do get deregulated, I'll be able to import it because it won't be under these restrictions anymore. But we have a multitude of import restrictions. Like if a barrel was in a machine gun, can't import the barrel into the U.S.
I would say the biggest difference, just looking at it from afar, is that you guys have a right to own firearms. For us, it's a privilege.
Yeah.
So for us, you need permits.
Right for us too. Sorry.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. For most of the Europe, it's
Yeah, it's not. It's a privilege.
yeah,
for most
it's a
people,
privilege,
yeah.
and you need to prove that you're able to own guns. You need to have a reason. So you have to be a hunter, a sport shooter. You need it for self-protection, or you're a collector. But other than that, some European countries have a really good firearm laws, and as you already saw, we can buy what you consider SBRs. We can buy guns that were converted from full auto. We can buy open bolt guns without issues. A lot of European countries allow suppressors. Some are unregulated, like in Slovenia. Anyone can buy and sell a suppressor or manufacture a suppressor. Like you can be a 5-year-old kid and you can buy it from the store.
Or print one.
Yeah.
But also it varies hugely. There's a European Firearms Directive for the EU and the countries they strong-armed into that. So Switzerland and Norway and Iceland. I think Iceland are strong-armed in. But like suppressors, there's everything from an absolute outright prohibition to they're not a thing.
Kind of like a difference between our state laws.
Yeah.
The biggest distinction, the easiest way I can describe the difference between American and European gun laws is Europeans generally have permitting schemes relatively similar to the U.S., where there is a level of documentation, I guess, a level of permit that allows you to have machine guns that is relatively analogous to our NFA. We have to go through extra paperwork and regulation to get machine guns. Most European countries have a version of that.
Or an outright prohibition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then most of them will have a level of permitting that allows you to have semi-automatic rifles, the sort of thing we think of as typical non-NFA guns. And then there's usually something on akin to our Curio and Relic, older bolt-action manual firearms, and then antiques. The biggest difference is in Europe, everything is registered.
Yep.
In the US, only the machine guns and the NFA stuff is registered. In Europe, everything is on paper, no matter what level of permit you have, usually excluding the antiques. Like if it's 100+ years old, it's black powder.
It depends.
Yeah.
So the European Firearms Directive is 1870, but then there's certain countries that are a bit more liberal than that and extended up a bit. Switzerland went from a cut-off date of, I think it was 1890 originally, and then they just took over the EU Firearms Directives 1870 in 2008. So that became became harder.
The difference, though, is if the police come to you, they have a list of every gun you own. If the police come to
if
me...
their database is any good, but we won't.
True. If the police come to me, they have a list of every NFA item that I own.
Mm-hmm. That's
the
actually
biggest difference.
I never heard it explained in this way, but you're completely correct. So essentially, all of our guns are NFAs. Like for every firearm that I own, I had to apply for a permit, pay 40 euros, then it gets approved, and then with that permit, I can then buy it in a store. I can generally I select the category of the firearm and the caliber, and then I buy whatever I want in the store, and then I have to register. So everything is registered.
Interesting. So
It's just a bit cheaper than $200.
So the second question was, which one would you want?
Yeah.
In the US?
Oh yeah.
Well, you can import him.
I'm ashamed to say, but what I would like is M14 tanker thingy, the short one. Yeah, I know it's terrible, but it's like it looks so aesthetically pleasing with the walnut stalk and everything. I'll put maybe an 8-point or something on it. It's like, yeah.
Maybe you want
that,
to flood after.
or the other two, or the other one is what also a lot of people don't realize. FN, it's a European company. They do not sell to civilians here because I don't know, like they want to. We'll not go into details. So essentially, if you want a new FN gun, you would have to import from the States. So I would probably go for the PS90, so the P90, and just chop the barrel off to have a short one.
Nice.
Because we can do that here.
Hell yeah.
European gun you want?
Well, I recently heard about the Makarov SD, pistol. So it would have to be that, or anything with a ported barrel, that we can't bring into the U.S. Like even an authentic MP5 SD. I know we can assemble them in the U.S., but it would be cool to get like a factory one.
So, that's impossible to get in Europe.
Okay.
Almost impossible. They are.
Well, you get the Turkish ones.
Yeah, you can get Turkish ones, but that's different. You want an MP5.
Yeah, I want the HK, even though, HK size. Anyway.
So I have a friend in Finland, Antti, who sends me listings from the Finnish Collectors Association auction that happens, I think, quarterly. And Finland is one of those countries where there are very few people who actually have the permit required for a full auto machine gun. But there's a lot of them floating around, and so the prices are just stupidly low. And he always sends me these infuriating lists of sales prices. So I would want an LS-26 light machine gun, which apparently would cost me some monumental sum of like 400 euros.
See, I could get that just to flex on Ian, but it would cost me more to get it out of Finland than it would cost to buy it at the auction.
Wow.
But that's still not much money.
Well, that's just because you
in our terms, that's nothing.
But the Euros can get it, and I thought this was America.
Yeah.
I own a gun shop. I think I can import that. 400 euros to say?
There you go.
Some stupid amount like that. Then there's usually a list of like 24 Suomis that failed to sell for 250 euros.
More pain.
All right. Another question from ERV2. This is another good one. What are the group's thoughts about the differences between a firearm reviewer and a firearm influencer on YouTube?
This is something I saw on the page before when you gave me the list of questions. I think it's interesting. The term influencer is just cringe, period. But if we're looking at it objectively from like actually influencing people, right? Versus, well, a review will influence people. So I guess depends on how you define it, but I think a lot of people associate the term influencer with shill, right? In a way. But if we're not looking at it from a shill perspective, like my goal one of my goals in the 3D printing channel about guns, 3D printing guns, is to get people that maybe weren't into guns interested in firearms, because there's a lot of, maybe there people are into creating things, and may have a curiosity about guns, but they haven't taken that step. And one of my goals is to get people curious, or take them from their curiosity to actually implementing that curiosity into creating something, because I think it's quite empowering to create something. And when you're creating a firearm, it's a very empowering experience to go from nothing or a spool of plastic to I'm at the range shooting a gun that I printed in my living room. And so in that way, I want to influence people. But I think a lot of people equate influencer to shill / egotistical trendsetter, whatever it is, or just edgelord, whatever it is. But I think there's a lot of different kinds of reviewers on YouTube. Some are actually doing things objectively and not influenced.
Who's a good gun reviewer that you would trust?
I think Hop and Brass Facts do a great job. I think the entertainment side isn't necessarily as much there with their channel. It's more just kind of like objective review.
Especially not with Hop.
Definitely not with Hop. Hop is just like, he's not afraid to just absolutely rail on something and completely
But that's why
annihilate.
if I would want to buy a new gun, or I'm looking at a new gun, and he made a review, I would listen to him and what he has to say, and I would think seriously about it.
Yeah.
And then some others, not so much.
Yeah.
But I would also say that it depends from a person to person, because what James Reeves does with shotguns, where he just I don't know what he calls it as, where he just burn out whatever, just shoots a load of very, very hot rounds through a shotgun, and that's serious testing.
Yeah.
Because that shows why all of the Turkish copies, like Benelis or whatever, they just fail after, I don't know, 100 rounds. They're just not made for full power rounds, not made for slugs and so on. And if you look at some other videos of some other smaller channels or whatever, like channels that got this gun for free and they shot it a couple of times, and then they have really, really good review about it. It's, oh yeah, it's the same as a Benelli. Well, it's not. If you seriously test it, you will see why not. So, it's hard to do. Like, that's why we don't do a lot of reviews on our channel, because if I'm not really excited about something, if I'm not really sure about something, if I didn't test it, I just don't want to do a proper review on it.
Yeah.
That's why my review of the Schmeisser rifle, which is very controversial because some people had actual issues with Schmeisser rifles, the earlier versions. Like mine, I had it for 3 years. I shot so many rounds with it, and it's one of the best AR that I ever shot. It's amazing how that thing still works because I'm abusing it, and we use it for shooting courses, and it's a loner gun. And it's still super accurate. So for that kind of thing, nobody paid me. Nobody, like, the company didn't say, like, can you do a review about this gun? I did it by myself because I was so amazed by this gun that it still works and how it works. But for me, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not just that kind of person. If a company gives you a gun and they say that they want a review, I'm not the right guy to do that.
Yeah.
I have trouble with that myself. Yeah,
I remember.
Well,
No, I think is that like what you were explaining, that companies try to give you free stuff and then it's really hard for you to kind of mention it. And
it is. It's hard to denigrate a company that has done you a favor, just at a base human psychological level, I think.
Yeah.
And then to do a proper review, as such, requires, like you just said, a lot of work, a lot of testing, and a lot of time. And I always cringe inside when I see someone refer to me as a firearms reviewer or ask me to review a particular gun, because
you review old forgotten weapons and you review them very well.
Well, the thing that allows me to do that, seriously, is other people have done all the work 100 years ago or 50 years ago, and it's been documented historically. And I'm able to go into primary and secondary sources of information about what happened with 100% hindsight. Like the M16. We know what happened to it, but imagine trying to be the guy reviewing the M16 in 1959.
You're handed Colt's factory serial number 100, the first one off the production line. You're given it for 2 weeks.
Right. So, at the same time, I'm very interested in a lot of new firearms production, and I like getting my hands on it. I like taking out, I like shooting it, I like looking at it, I like trying to understand it. And what I try to do is provide, here's what this is. I'm not going to try and pass judgment on, are there flaws in their manufacturing process that we will only discover when they've made 10,000 and all gotten into the public? I don't know. I have no way to tell. I can do a basic, this one's working fine on that basis. What is it like to shoot? What is perhaps its intended purpose? What is it? One thing that weirdly very few people do is actually take apart stuff and show the insides on new firearms.
I'm scared to do that.
I
Yeah, because of YouTube rules.
Yeah. But in his context,
for whatever reason, I've never had any issues with that from YouTube, taking stuff apart. So I feel like there is a value in showing that and providing, say, an introduction to a gun, not a review of a gun. Like, I'll review something if I've shot a whole lot through it, like you said, but for me especially, the longer I do this, the rarer that gets. I just don't shoot any one gun all that much.
Yeah. We were also talking about something earlier, that a lot of stuff doesn't turn up in troop trials because it's short series production and the limited scope of even an extensive troop trial, and they'll only torture test a few.
Yeah.
Stuff turns up when you're doing full-on series production, and stuff has been in the hands of the users, which in the case of military weapons, which is mostly what our focus is, they've been in the hands of troops a few years, and they've all got a few thousand live rounds on them, God knows how many blanks, and tens of thousands of dry repetitions.
Yeah.
With dry firing.
And using them for all the stupid things they weren't supposed to be used for that the designers couldn't even think of.
Yeah, and what we were talking about earlier was the original sliding charger guide on
Yes.
the Mark 1 and all the starred Mark 1s, Lee Enfields passed troop trials with no problems. But the amount of, I suspect that with the amount of dry training the professional army was doing at that time, they just worked loose.
Yeah.
But that's stuff that doesn't turn up in a troop trial, let alone in a, hey, we're going to loan you this for a month.
I think there's a huge, almost maybe an impossibility, but a huge challenge in creating a channel that can create effective, serious firearms reviews on a once-a-week basis.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to be running a bunch of guns simultaneously. You're not going to be able to catch that hype wave of when something new is released. Man, like that's just a really challenging objective to meet.
Yep.
Yeah, not to mention the amount of ammo cost that goes
Yeah.
into that.
Yeah.
Need an ammo sponsor.
Yeah.
To me, I guess the difference between a reviewer and an influencer would be the reviewer is doing this sort of in-depth work, or at least some simulacrum of it, where an influencer is like community vibe.
Hey, I got this gun. They gave it to me. Look at my leggings.
Yeah, it's not about the gun. It's about everything around the gun.
Yeah.
That's sort of, to me, that's the influencer sphere is
But
the lifestyle.
In the end, we're all influencers because if you like it or not, we're all influencing different kind of opinions.
Yeah.
We are.
Yeah.
And it's not always a bad thing. It's certainly not something I would want to focus on or want to try and make content specifically derived for.
I think that's the thing. That's because I do realize that is a big thing, because in the past we got a lot of emails, a lot of messages of people like just asking, what gun should I buy? Essentially, the gun that I would tell him to buy, he would probably buy it. And that scares me, because there's not one universal gun that would be good for everyone, and that's why we don't want to do this kind of like.
Let's look at the bright side of influencing.
Yeah.
There is some real actual value that can be had in influencing the right things in the community, like safety habits.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. Like, that's one of those things where in the midst of doing whatever else we are doing, you can demonstrate good safety at the range and legitimately influence it as this is the best way to act. This is the role model to follow.
Yep. And but Ian, you don't show clear to camera when you're filming.
There's a difference between when you're at the range actually shooting and when you're.
But it's cultivating these good these good habits and ignoring that kind of nonsense BS. And I would sometimes engage with these people and say, all right, if you can give me timely feedback on whether my gun is clear or not, then we can talk. But I filmed that weeks before I edited it, let alone released it.
I do deliberately leave safety checking in disassembly videos. Not every time, but I do occasionally put it in. I'm thinking like, let's just
Check it
once in a while remind people that this is procedure.
Yeah.
I still remember the time where you got comments when you muzzled the camera.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that? Like, you muzzle sweep the camera. Like, what are we talking about?
I know. That's a whole.
We're old.
That's a whole other debate about why people are worried by that. The whole what is it? The parasocial relationships with the content creators, that sometimes it crosses that boundary into people not making the distinction that it's a screen and it's something that happened weeks or months ago and it's not actually a thing.
All right, I'm going to change our focus here 180 degrees. TJ says, gentlemen, start your engines. You will be driving from Slovenia to North Cape, which I believe is somewhere up in Scandinavia, and back. What car and why?
North Cape.
I'm not a car guy.
Let's just say Norway. I don't know. I think I looked at it
north.
when it came in. It's a very long drive.
I'm not a car guy. Not a Land Rover because I don't want to be spending a day a month fixing it on the way. Something I can sleep in.
Skoda Superb.
A train.
4x4, 190 horsepower. Or if we get fancy, Audi A6 off-road 4x4 Quattro for Audi with the most powerful 3.0 engine, like the diesel. It has almost 400 horsepower. So.
That's cool because European roads have really high speed limits and no traffic control.
Well,
right?
you're going to go through Germany.
Depends where, yeah, depends where.
I'm taking the newly released Toyota Hilux, the work truck that only cost around $12,000, and you cannot buy in the U.S. because we suck.
Hey, this is Slovenia to Norway.
Yeah. And I will say I've drooled on Instagram over some of these people lifting it, putting big tires on it. It's meant for it's a bare bones, completely it's a manual windows,
So
a
it'll
car
suck.
radio. But it maybe doesn't have an AC. It probably has an AC, but you don't need it if
Europe
you're going
doesn't have
up
AC.
to Finland or to Norway or whatever from Slovenia. And then I would put a rooftop tent on it and call it a day.
I thought he was going to say a dishka.
Well, Hiluxes are known for that as well.
3D printed dish.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to do something largely on brand. First off, some of you are going to say, 2CV. No, that would suck. I've driven 2 CVs. That is not a fun car to drive for 8,000 miles or whatever this would be. So I know other people are going to be like, oh, he needs a proper French car. He needs a Citroën DS with the hydraulic suspension and all of the maintenance issues of the Land Rover. No, I think I would pick a Volvo 1800.
Nice.
It's not super fast. It doesn't need to be. This isn't a race course. It's 18 countries worth of 100-kilometer-an-hour speed limits, but it looks amazing. I've had a crush on them for a very long time, and
Yeah, you may.
either that or basically like a robo car that drives itself, so I can just do work instead. All right, we're on to our third and final page. This has gone rather longer than a normal Q&A, but I think we're having some fun here. We've got 3 questions left here. Matt says, of all the horrible choices of firearms you've used in competition, which are surprisingly good, i.e. Žiga's 308 AK that he won finished Brutality with, despite it breaking on you in the process.
I want it, not the gun. I think if I had a better gun, it would be even better.
Predictably bad, like my high point at Moon's Out, or surprisingly bad, probably, this came in before links, but he says probably your KH9.
You got a really good result, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fifth. I beat you.
Fifth overall, yeah.
Yeah.
And, okay, this kind of ended without a question. Out of all the horrible choices used in competition, which ones are surprisingly good or surprisingly bad? And why?
Do you want to answer this one
No.
first?
I have one of your garbage
Well, no,
tier
I've got-
patches.
Yeah, I need to. Well, yeah, they're available at Leica, and actually, I'm going to say the L85A1
That was remarkably not crappy.
because
it worked for the whole match.
which actually that didn't surprise me so much, and I anticipated the shitty high relief on the Susat, and learning on the clock how to deal with barricades and tiny little ports and things on the clock with that was a bit exciting, because I normally shoot a red dot or a red dot on a magnifier, so I don't have to shoulder the rifle and I can have my head wherever I want. Suddenly you're in bunches of winter clothing and you can't see through the sight at all if your eye's further than that much away from it. I mean, it's the officially correct eye relief is with the little rubber cup on your brow. That's the only way you get the full scope. But because I hated on L85s a lot, for ergonomic reasons, and actually it turned out to be not as crappy as I anticipated. It's heavy, it's top heavy, but then there were things like like in the skiing stage, having it on the sling. That crazy, like that sling arrangement is actually legit. And I used to think it was a bit crappy because I was my university officer training corps days. So I've been reading all the Andy McNabb bullshit. Right, use the slings and blah blah blah. And it's like actually the sling actually works. And it outperformed my expectations on the ergonomics. I thought I might get a jam or two, maybe. It ran the match flawlessly without a jam, with the original mags, which like
Very impressive.
American heads explode.
Yeah, they're made out of thin tin cans.
Yes, but they work fine until they don't. It's not like they're just craptastic in general. It's just they're not robust. So they do, when they break, you eat them. And there were no forced left shoulder shots. So. And possibly the SAR-80 that I shot the first links with, which is an AR-18 derivative, but actually I shot your AR-8 180 in a match in the US, and I now have one as well. And actually, the SAR-80 is legit better.
Okay.
It's heavier, longer. It's heavier, but it's legit more robust and handles better and shoots better as a result. I've shot a lot of garbage tier stuff.
I feel like I've had pretty darn good success at predicting what's going to work well and what's going to work badly. I'm trying to think of a time when I was really surprised by a gun working better or worse than I anticipated. Honestly, the revolver is the one that comes to mind. Like, I did a Brutality match with an MR-73. It's a magnificent revolver. I just apparently can't shoot it well under stress, because that worked out very poorly for me, especially when we had, like, multiple spinners.
Yeah. But my KH9, so...
The FRF2 in that same match, you didn't miss a single shot.
That's true. Now, there were only 4 shots with it, but it was 4 shots at progressively increasing ranges in open terrain. And I was using the original L806 scope, a 4-power, 3.85 power scope, and managed to go 4 for 4 out to 500 or 600 yards.
So you watched my KH9 at the match.
I don't know that I would have predicted the KH9 to be a bad gun. Beyond the fact that it is a 9mm PCC
with a terrible trigger. No, not terrible, just different. It's
long. It's like Chinese AK-like, but smoother.
Well, for me, it'll be the Desert Tech Wolverine for the Finnish winter brutality. Worked perfectly. Worked way better than expected, and I haven't trained with the bullpup. Like, I got it 2 days before I left for Finland, and it was just natural. Everything was very ergonomic, worked perfectly, had no issues with it, and it was boringly good. That's
impressive.
one. Second one would definitely be the AUG from Les. He borrowed one. He lended me one for the Moonsault. I shot my first night vision match with an AUG with janky laser mounting on it. The only issue that I had, one issue was when I was shooting a lot, I burned my finger, I guess, on the gas tube or somewhere on the AUG because there's not a lot of space and it's very close by. But otherwise, trigger was good, the gun was good, it was ergonomic, I did the reloads, everything. It was amazingly simple to operate. And of course, like for Lynx Brutality MP5 SD, I thought that I would have much more problems, especially for the long range canted shots, and I didn't. So
I think
what I would say, same with the 308 AK, it's more about the shooter than the gun. If you don't have like a really shitty gun that will just malfunction on you or it's just inaccurate, it's not about the gun.
I think we both put in the nerdy prep work for the long shots with the PCCs.
That is true. That is true.
We
That is
both
true.
put in a
I
lot
was
of thought.
expecting to have a lot of problems with the SD because of the like really crazy zero and like the difference in ballistics. So I changed my zero to a lot of different things. I downloaded the Hornady ballistic app, and I was just going through it. What would be the optimal? And yeah, that kind of helped. Without that, without a prep, I would not know where I'm like. at certain distance, am I high or am I low? And how high and how low?
Yeah. I personally haven't had as many brutalities under my belt as y'all, but I really only have modern kind of non-meme guns as well, meme in a way, because I ran a non-meme gun, the Perun X16, the Slovenian
with meme
gun,
optics.
and I had to just put a little bit of meme into it, so I put a riser on it, like a 2.26 or maybe it's 2.9 or something. It's way up there riser wise. But then I thought, you know what? There's going to be a long distance target. Let's put a primary arms prism optic farther back on the receiver so that I can switch to it.
It was like a DIY loophole Devo.
Yeah, basically the version of that, which now apparently is all the rage.
And it altogether cost probably $500
Yeah.
instead of $3,000 for the Devo.
Yeah, the mount was like $39. It was a hollow sun red dot. The primary arms was maybe $250, so it was pretty inexpensive. But I actually, it was quite practical and usable. And when I couldn't get the red dot optic to hit the target that was close because it's so damn high above the bore, I switched to the prism, and then in the tunnel stage where we were hitting the 160 meter target, used the prism, and it was very accurate, and I was able to get good hits on it. And then the other one is Moon's Out. I did a little bit of a meme as well, where I mounted 2 lasers on my rifle. One that was kind of like the CQB one, which was like a flood for the IR, and it had a laser on it, and that was mounted at the front of my MCX. And then I mounted the Penumbra laser, which has a T2 footprint, so you can actually mount it on a riser. And so that riser was high enough to clear the bottom laser that was in the front of the... And then I mounted the RMR on the top, so I had 3 options for my targeting. And that actually had a couple of moments when I couldn't hit with one of the lasers, so I used the other laser, and then the other laser worked. And then I had one moment where I had to hit with the optic, and the optic saved me. So it helps to have a little bit of redundancy and some backups.
Solution is more optics. Okay. Fire Tower says, how would you define personally your role on YouTube? To you, what does winning look like? You're a Slav. You're so far away from winning that you've forgotten what it actually involves.
Yeah, you go.
I don't know. Well, what looks like winning? Increasing the total sum of correct, obscure, old GAT knowledge.
So to me, I see my role, my goal, as building an encyclopedia of firearms. Basically military firearms, but an encyclopedia of the history of every firearm. And every firearm is obviously an impossible goal, but it's the one that's sort of the beacon that I'm following, knowing that I'll never get there, but that's the goal, and that's what generally keeps me focused on what I'm doing.
For me, winning is when someone comes up to me and says, hey, I started getting into 3D printing from watching your content. I now am fluent in CAD design, and I'm going to college for CAD design. I want to be an engineer. That to me is for me winning.
That's a really good answer. That's also a really good question.
Yeah.
I would. It's really hard for me to define my role on the platform, but this part, like what does winning for me looks like. Realistically, if you take a step back and look at what we have all achieved, you need to realize that there are like hundreds of thousands of people, creators that cannot reach 1,000 views. And yeah, I'm constantly bitching about YouTube, and especially what I hate the most is when we invest a lot of time, a lot of money into producing a very awesome normal content video, and for some reason, I don't know, the thumbnail is wrong, something is wrong, the title is not optimized, it just fails. It does not get the views. It gets 30,000 views. And that just hurts inside. But then you have to think about all of the people that cannot even reach a part of that. So I would have to say that we're already winning. If we're doing this, what we are doing, like we're traveling the world, we're shooting international matches, we're hanging out and talking about this stuff, like I think this is a big win for me already. So even if YouTube just decides to cancel all the gun content right now, like this will still be a big win for me.
Yeah.
It's an amazing experience, and just it allowed me and my guys in our channel to just meet other people, get into the community, and just travel the world and shoot guns, which is
And get
amazing.
together.
And if anyone on YouTube, if YouTube moderators are watching, no, don't get rid of guns on YouTube.
Don't get any ideas.
Yeah.
Okay, it's starting to get late. We have one question left. I think it's another pretty good one. This is from Loki. It says, looking back at your beginnings in YouTube, are you surprised with where you ended up? Would you start in YouTube today, or would you do something else?
That's a good question as well.
So
let's get deep.
I'll kick this one off. Yes, I am absolutely surprised about where I ended up, because it was not ever, what I have today is not ever what I had in mind. For me, Forgotten Weapons was a hobby. It was a side fling because it was fun and it appealed to me. And it just, over time, it got popular. Like, it stayed popular. It got more successful. It has absolutely shifted over time. It started off as pictures and documents and written text, and it has turned into just video. It's entirely a video-based channel at this point. But never, if you'd asked me 15 years ago, which is embarrassingly how long I've been doing this now, that, you're going to be in Slovenia shooting a match with a whole bunch of other people, true or false? I'd be like, that sounds bizarre. And if I could start over today, I would absolutely do it again. I think, for all the griping that we do about YouTube, it is an amazing platform that has just blown the gates off of the ability to directly reach an audience. If I wanted to do what I'm doing today, 20 years ago, it would be on the History Channel, and it would be, I have to become like the one guy who hosts Tales of the Gun. And it almost doesn't even matter how good you are at it. You have to be in the right place at the right time and be found by the right people to do that. And then you're one show competing against a zero-sum game of other content that's available on television. And what YouTube did was completely destroy that algorithm and open up essentially modern television, the modern iteration of television, to anybody who can appeal to an audience. If you have the right combination of content and production quality and personality and information, it's there for the taking. You can do it, and all four of us have done it. And I would not turn that down. It's opened up some huge opportunities for me. It's been a lot of fun. It's sometimes a miserable experience to work with YouTube, and it is a heck of a lot of work. Don't let anyone tell you that if you
Editing sucks.
Oh, if you work for yourself, you'll never work a day in your life. No, that's total crap. If you work for yourself, you'll work every day of your life.
Yeah, 24/7.
And you'll envy your friends who have jobs that they can just shut off and walk away from at 5 o'clock. But I would absolutely do it again.
That was a really good answer. Yeah, definitely. I would definitely do it again. But if all of this was gone and like starting from the beginning, I don't think I would start a YouTube channel. Because same as you, I didn't start it like, oh, I will start a YouTube channel to be an influencer and earn money. We started as like just a group of friends. It started as a hobby. My first videos were airsoft, not even real guns. And I started to posting them because I thought they looked cool. And we did cool stuff and posted it, and just like kind of evolved slowly into a business. So I don't know. I don't know what the next best thing is, but it's probably not YouTube. I think maybe I don't know. We don't even know what else is.
You bring up a good point about starting today. Not starting again back when we did.
Yeah.
Starting a gun channel on YouTube today, like, it's so much more cutthroat. I don't know that I could grow it starting today, the way that I did starting when I did.
Yeah, and the competition and everything. But another part of this question, if I am surprised, I'm definitely I'm like my mind was blown by like just my first time at SHOT Show, seeing people that I was watching for years on YouTube like in person, like oh that's Forgotten Weapons guy, and oh look that's the gay guy with short shorts, James or something. And, like, really, like that's how we met. Like we were a bit drunk. We said, oh, that's the guy from TFVTV, and just we went there and kind of introduced ourselves. But one moment I will remember probably forever is when I was younger. I watched Black Hawk Down a lot and Generation Kill. And my first time finished Brutality, what is it? 2019.
I was there.
Rudy Reyes was there. I was like, what? Like actual Rudy Reyes. And okay, I was a bit disappointed because like his shooting skills were not to my standards. But like that was the guy that I watched for so many times on my computer and my TV, and like I just idolized that show, and I don't know, it was a really, really awesome experience that I never thought in a million years I would get. And yeah, here we are.
Yeah. I guess, yeah, I'll go. I'm probably the channel maybe that has the most recent, like I started it most recently out of the youngest channel out of all of us. And for my entire life since I can remember, I've always wanted to do what I'm doing now. Since I was 8 years old, I had a camcorder recording myself being silly on the camera. So to be able to do that as my job and entertain people as a career is, I have to pinch myself constantly. And then when I get to do stuff like this, where I'm traveling the world, shooting the competition in Slovenia, if you would have asked me that even like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I would have said, oh, no way. Like with Ian or with the Žiga or, Bloke, all these people. And I remember, watching videos of you guys at Brutalities and being like, oh, that would be so cool to do. You and Yari and Bloke. And it's just like unreal. And I had that moment where I was sitting, I think, between stages. And I just kind of like was like, wow. I had a moment where I was like, got a little emotional almost. Because it's a true blessing. And I would absolutely do it again, all over again. And I was struggling getting out of college, wondering what I wanted to do. And it's been a long time since college, but I went on my own path of discovery and wanted to do something with film. And like you said, YouTube has opened that world for so many people, including myself and all of us, to be able to broadcast ourselves actually to the world. And it's become such an accessible way to do that. So I would say, if you are looking to start a YouTube channel, absolutely, you're passionate and you have a fierce, very fierce drive to make the content that you want, absolutely go for it, and don't get discouraged on getting views initially, because all of us started by just being passionate about what we wanted to make. And
I remember the day that I made $1 in a single day, monetized on YouTube. Holy cow, that was exciting, and it took years to get to a whole $1 in a day. It wasn't point something something. It was actually 1 point. Yeah.
So I'll finish off this one then.
Yes.
I mean, I'm surprised where I ended up today. I didn't think I'd be sitting down with these guys and other people I've sat down with. I started it because I had an absolute burning hyperfixation to make 2 videos, one about like M1 Garand myths and the other one about why Liam fields are fast, and then it just kind of went from there and spiraled out of control in various ways, and it's been very cool that it did. And just to make sure I get the wording right, surprised with where I ended up. We're 9 years in now and 150,000, and it's niche content. Most of the time we've been doing 1 video a week between me and Chappie. It's gone down recently because of real life getting in the way. I mean, in the gun nerd sphere, you've got to be producing a gajillion videos a week to be getting those kinds of things. If you're doing mostly nerdy stuff, would you start in YouTube today, or would you pick somewhere else? Yes, because YouTube is it's not an actual 100% monopoly, but it has such a high market share. It's something like 95% that it is a de facto monopoly.
Yeah.
Have you considered going on Player? Yes, I was an early adopter of Player. Now that's gone by the wayside. And the latest hotness is Rumble. We had.
You should be on Rumble. It's like
yeah.
I just linked you. Like we're on Rumble for 2 years already.
Yeah.
I never even checked
Yeah.
to see if we're there.
I think there are just people who are paid to go promote Rumble.
Yeah.
Could be or
well,
bots.
you used to get back in the day, back when Full 30 was the thing. Have you considered going on Full 30? They were
Literally the
It was
first channel on
pound,
430.
channel on Full 30, and people
Yeah.
didn't know. People hear about these alternate platforms, but if I get like 120 views on Player, that's a lot, and then I've got it mirroring to
Everywhere.
everywhere. Basically everywhere. I don't have to put any effort in, and it just mirrors. That's
And it's largely because we all do long form content.
Yeah.
If it was short form, there are alternative platforms that are
Yeah.
viable.
Yeah.
But for long form,
yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
TikTok. We did TikTok for a time for a while.
All the dances.
We
Do
did,
this dance
we
on
did interesting.
January
We did interesting stuff, and it was getting a lot of views, and we were banned.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
if you're doing guns anywhere, like
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
so we just stopped doing it.
I mean, we all put stuff on Instagram, but it's a very, very different form of content. Facebook,
Instagram is
Twitter.
also big. It's like a big shadow ban. How you can see if we are shadow banned? Like try finding our Instagram handle or page. You have to type Polenar Tactical the whole way to the end of letter, the last letter. Otherwise, it will not find it.
Yeah.
It'll
All of
find
us.
pole
Even then,
dancing.
you're on the
It'll
bottom.
find polenta. It'll find everything, just not Polenar Tactical.
Polenta.
yes. Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
All right. This has been like double the length of a normal Q&A.
But it was
I think.
super fun.
Yeah.
It was
that
very
was cool.
fun. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this, please do consider checking out your favorite channels' Patreon pages. All of ours are linked in the description text below. This is, of course, Bloke on the Range, Polenar Tactical, Forgotten Weapons, but you probably knew that, and Print, Shoot, Repeat, PSR.
One last thing.
Yeah.
Great questions. You have really good patrons. Our patrons, they're okay, but their questions usually are non-existent or they're terrible. So,
So we need more of Ian's patrons to go onto Polenar Tactical.
oh yeah, that would work.
All right, guys. Well, thank you all very much for joining us. We had a great time at Links Brutality, and we're going to again next year. We'll see you then.
Bye bye.